What's up, everybody? It's about that time for another edition of the Crew Radio Show. I'm Kevin Swan, co-host of the show, and the crew are professional people who are also friends that come together to talk about the things you want us to talk about. We talk about it all, and we don't hold back. So come on and join us for another edition of the Crew Radio Show.
Welcome to the Crew here on WHOV and on social media outlets. We glad that you're here. The show is already off the rails, but we're here today. We got Anton, we got Sia.
What's up, y'all?
We got Jason, our producer extraordinaire. Who are you today, sir?
I'm Jay Cub today. I'm chilling.
Jay Cub today.
Jay Cub. Well, I'm gonna be Southeast Sia today.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Southeast Sia.
You know, before
you Tiny Todd today.
No, I'm Todd. I'm consistent.
You consistent with who you are.
I'm Todd.
Kevin.
I'm Kevin today.
You Kevin today?
I'm Kevin.
Okay, Kevin is nice.
Kevin.
Y'all, Kevin is nice. Two different personalities. Kevin is nice. Kevin.
That's the one that's not saved.
That's the one they say.
Y'all need to pray for
Y'all
him.
need to pray for him. Pray fast. Break your plate. Turn it down. Kevin. Watch Kevin.
I just want y'all to know the lies that they tell in this group. You know what I'm saying? The viewers don't need to be subjected to this kind of nonsense. You know what I'm saying? This is between us. This is
between us.
This is in-house stuff.
We tell
In-house
business.
now.
You know how we do in the black
In-house
community.
now.
Don't put the business out on the street.
That's what we do now.
That's what you don't do that in the black community.
You know you don't.
You
now.
keep it
Oh,
down.
God.
Keep it down.
That's right.
Okay, I get it. I'm sorry.
There you
I'm
go.
sorry, Kevin.
You trying to rat
I'm
on
sorry.
me.
I'm sorry. My bad. I apologize.
What we talking about today? Oh, we're talking about DEI.
DEI.
Yes.
DEI.
And what's that?
You tell me.
I can do
Diversity,
that.
equity, inclusion.
Diversity,
Yes.
equity, and inclusion. And we know that it's been a big thing in the news and big thing in corporations, but it's also taking a hit depending on who's been in office and how they view it. And so we want to have a conversation. And so, see, I know you've been doing a lot of...
You still didn't set up right.
Oh, Lord, here we go. I'm going to stop being the host of the show. See, you know what? I'm going to just
You
let
still did
my
not
gosh.
set
Can
it
I
up
ask
right.
the questions first?
If you set it up right, you got to set it up
You
right.
got to trust me.
No, you got to set it up right and then ask the question.
Okay, set it up then, Tom.
The setup is there was a football game, an NFL football game.
That wasn't the setup.
That
Go
is the
ahead.
setup. And then there was the regular national anthem, but there was also the American Negro national anthem, sung by Tasha Cobbs Leonard. And when she did the performance of the American or National Negro anthem, people started saying they should boycott the NFL because why should that ethnicity get their own special time to showcase their national anthem? And that came down to, okay, we need to discuss, is it that big of an issue? But it is that big of an issue because DEI has been getting that kind of hit all over the place simply because people think that we're getting some type of advantage.
So the Black National Anthem is DEI to people?
To some people, yeah.
Because it's the inclusion.
It's the inclusion.
So maybe
And
for
they were mad. They were mad. They were mad.
So can I set it up now?
Go.
Okay.
Help yourself.
So Sia,
Yes.
for people who don't know what DEI is,
Yes.
and can you give us kind of an overview how it came into existence, all the stuff that DEI stands for?
Yeah, so back in the day, when there were, I guess during the civil rights period, and there was the affirmative action. So that was kind of like the first stage of it. And it was basically saying, like, if you have all of these equal applicants, like, you should do work to make sure that they're diverse, the classes that you're entering in. And so if you had a white student and a black student or Asian student, a Hispanic student, all of them, they should, you should work to make sure that folks have diversity within their institutions. And so some
In
of the
terms
business,
of admission or in terms of the curriculum?
all of that.
Okay.
So and also in terms of staffing and all of that. So like, since America is diverse, then our institutions should reflect the diversity of our country, right? So that's it in general. So the diversity is making sure that there's race, age, gender, sexual orientation, and ethnicity, different representation. So when you hear representation matters, that's what the diversity is. Equity is making sure that there's that level playing field for everyone to have the opportunity to succeed, and the privilege is checked in those instances. So your Black employee and your white employee both have the same opportunity for thriving. And then inclusion is making sure that people feel safe and welcomed in these spaces. And so that's a step way above and beyond just affirmative action, because I know a lot of folks that got into places and spaces because of affirmative action that it was not a safe a safe environment to be in. But that's what the idea of DEI was. And so when you saw summer of 2020 and the uprisings after the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, you saw a lot of companies flocking to the opportunity to be a part of Blackness and hiring DEI coordinators, which a lot of them were Black women, hiring more Black people within the entry-level jobs. And it was supposed to be a show of, we're not part of that. We're with y'all, right? And you saw more commercials with Black people or interracial couples. A lot of those trends started. And also after the Me Too movement really hit its peak and a lot of the LGBTQIA plus spaces, a lot of companies were showing, hey, we want to be a part of this wonderful, all-inclusive space. But then...
But see, you got to be careful about businesses, Tom, jumping into spaces. Because I don't believe businesses are in anything other than for profit.
That is correct.
They jumped in with Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Because they saw an opportunity for people to make money. And that's why Nike never abandoned Kaepernick.
I agree to say, because they did make money.
Right.
They made a whole lot of money.
They made a whole lot of money.
And you can say you standing with somebody.
So I mean, actually, it was a smart business move for Nike.
Correct.
Okay.
And every time they released a shoe in the same time frame, it sold out.
Yes.
Yes.
And his jersey sold out.
Yes.
So are you really with him or are you really for profit? I mean, that's...
Well, the argument. So I don't think anybody that I know in the Black community was like, "Oh, yay, Nike is now for us."
No,
but you're buying his stuff.
But there was not that requirement, right? There has not been a requirement. Widespread in the African American community in the 2000s that the companies we support also support us.
Correct.
Now, if you get caught talking N-word this or N-word that, then yeah, we'll boycott in a minute. But I do not see that a lot of people are making sure that the companies that we support en masse are really for us. And so this is where we find out. So Robbie Starbuck is the one that really came after what he called a woke agenda within the DEI policies. So he ran for Congress and lost, and he rages against DEI, Pride Month, climate change, and inclusivity training. So basically,
Where is he?
I don't know where he is in real life. I've only seen him on Twitter.
Okay, all right.
So a lot of his activism was on X, or what we formerly known as Twitter. He's an anti-vaxxer. He has false claims that have been scientifically debunked and debunked by data and all of that. But a lot of what he has come after was aimed at the Human Rights Campaign. Now, the Human Rights Campaign is trying to make sure that these spaces are safe and inclusive for LGBTQIA plus people, which this is where intersectionality gets in, because when he's gone after, let's name them, Lowe's, Harley Davidson, Toyota, Brown-Forman, which we'll come back to that one because that's really important, Ford, Coors, Tractor Supply Company, John Deere, like all of these people, he's like, had people go hard after them on social media, so much so they've backed out of their DEI policies that they just implemented recently.
Wow.
And so
He has that kind of pull?
But that's the thing. That's what is up for discussion, because you're pulling out these people, you're having these people, come after these, but you coming after Toyota on social media, but you don't even own a Toyota or buy them. So like what we're seeing is the loudest voices that you're responding to are not always the ones that were supporting your actual business. And so the Human Rights Campaign, their argument is, so the LGBTQIA plus community has $1.7 trillion spending power. And Black Americans, we have, let me get it right, I want to say it was just a little, we have $1.8 trillion in spending power. But the majority of people that were buying from John Deere and Tractor Supply Company may not have been us. But, when you look at Ford and you look at all of these things, it's like, so you're listening to the loudest voices, but have you taken into account who will stop supporting you because you went back this other way? And they're saying that's going to be remaining to be seen. But they're pulling out of the policies that they put in place to make sure that their workforce was diverse. Like, so this guy is particularly going after LGBTQIA people, but it's impacting Black employees as well, because their DEI programs were inclusivity in general. And so, I just think it's fascinating because when you look at a lot of anti-LGBTQ plus stuff, it's like othered, right? So even Black people will try to marginalize the trans people, but when trans people are gone after, we are impacted as well. And so I don't know that a lot of people understand that DEI is all of the marginalized communities trying to get on a level playing field. But yeah, this guy has had a lot of power on social media, and it is just, it's really interesting to see. But yeah, like some of these stories that we're hearing back, it's just, it shouldn't depend on who's in the White House on whether or not we're able to get jobs and have safe workplaces.
Right. So is affirmative action a part of DEI, or was affirmative action a part of DEI?
No, I think I would just say it's kind of more the predecessor of it. DEI now is like, whether the courts are mandating it or not, and we're not talking quotas. We're not saying I'm going to hire 3 Black people and 4 Asian people. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actively making sure that your company, that the biases within your company are in check so that applicants have an equal playing field and that employees have an equal chance of getting better jobs or rising within the company.
So this is more, again, from the perspective of hiring practices, culture, climate of the organization.
And what they sponsored. So there were some people that were some of these companies that were sponsoring Juneteenth activities, and they were sponsoring Pride event activities. Like they might have like Coors Light might have had like a rainbow beer can or something at Pride. And so they've backed out of all of that.
And that's why the pushback is against DEI completely.
The pushback is against DEI completely. But if you hear some of these folks like this dude talk about DEI, it's some feelings behind when they say DEI. I hear them using the N word with the hard R.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because when they called that when the bridge collapse happened in Maryland, and there's a young Black male who Brandon Scott. Let me make sure. Yes, who's the mayor?
Of Baltimore.
So, yeah, Brandon Scott of Baltimore. They called him the DEI mayor.
They did.
Because he's young and Black. And that is like, so why are you calling him a DEI mayor? Because he was duly elected. So he has a college degree. He has you have to be a certain age and a citizen and get a certain number of signatures in order to run for local office. So not only did he do that, he's also from there. He has, elected experience now, and that he has a college degree. So he's above and beyond the minimum qualifications. But because he's young Black and he's his young Black authentic self, he's now the DEI mayor.
Go deeper, because they're calling someone else the DEI candidate.
Tap in.
Come on.
The DEI candidate.
Vice President Kamala Harris. They called her that. The DEI candidate.
And she has more elected office experience. She has been in the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and now the executive branch, and has had more experience than any other candidate running for higher office in our lifetime.
So I think part of the challenge in this is, Ton, people are adverse to change, right? And the reality is, in our country, this country has always been dominated by white men. right? And I know we've talked about fear on another show, but is it part of the pushback is the fear that our country is becoming more diverse, more colored? Statistics prove that out, that in 2050 or at some point in the next generation, that there'll be more people of color in our country. And so there's pushback against that because the people in power are fighting to control and keep their power. And there's an uprising of other people who are coming up saying, hey, we want our voices to be heard as well. What do you think?
Part is status. You are now knocking on the door of my status, my position, the spaces that were restricted to me. Now you want entry. The positions that were reserved for me, now you want to be able to apply and be successful in your application. You want to be able to go into certain boardrooms and be able to be candidates to be CEOs and be able to go to certain universities. You're now messing with the status. I don't like the status being changed because the status the way it used to be, that's why they say make America great again, because I want you to go back to the time where I was top dog. I was at the top of the food chain. I was at the top of the ladder. And now here you are coming and you're pulling me down, or at least you are gaining access and getting closer. And because of the genius creativity of Black and brown people, we, if given the opportunity, we are going to excel because we were always taught you got to be twice as good. We was always taught that you got to excel in order to be even looked upon as average. And so because of that, there's a spirit of excellence on us as a people. So when given the some of us, I say as a people, some of us. Yeah, because some of us trifling. Some of us are very trifling.
Don't tap into the excellence.
So some of us are trifling. Okay.
Don't put everybody in that category.
Yeah, some of us are just straight up trifling, living on our mama sofa, okay, with the plastic on there. And so, but nonetheless, I digress.
Fork and spoon on the wall too.
Come on.
Picture the Jesus in between.
Jesus, Black Jesus, Black Jesus, and Martin Luther King, and JFK. I knew you were gonna say yes, and JFK.
And you got the bees going from the kitchen to the dining room.
I'm just saying, you telling the truth. We telling the truth, y'all. We keeping it real. But the reality of as a people, as a culture, historically, we have always had that spirit of drive and ambition and being able to be creative in what we had to do because we always had to hustle. We've always had to grind. And so now you put us up against people who have been privileged, or put us up against people who have been entitled, or put us up against people who have been handed things versus those who had to grind, be better than, be twice as good as. We are going to outproduce. That's just what it's going to be. And now you are now bucking the status quo.
So is the status quo against race or power?
Power.
You think it's power?
It's always power.
But a lot of that power was built off race.
Say it again.
A lot of the power was built off race. Because everything that you just described about being better than was solely given to some based on their whiteness.
There you go.
Not on their excellence, not on what they've produced, not on what they've done. But as soon as they were born white, the way that the system was set up is that they were better than others. And so now when that equal playing field happens and you see your mediocre self being left behind, you got a problem. And just like they burned down the Black Wall Street, now they're trying to burn down all of the things that are helping us be on that equal playing field.
And that's why I get so ticked off when we are trifling. Because we know the systems that are in place. We know, we're taught as little kids about these systems. We're given the talk about our encounters with law enforcement. We're given the talk about how to drive and be mindful when you come in contact with certain individuals. We're taught about not hanging around certain groups and being a leader and not a follower. We're taught these things. We're taught about you get one shot. You don't get multiple chances. You're not going to be able to file bank rush 4 or 5 times. You get one shot. Did I say that?
Oops.
I said it. I meant it. You're not gonna get multiple chances.
Right.
You're not gonna be able to do Donald Trump thing and be able to file bankruptcy 50 million times. You're not gonna get $1 million to start off or $4 million to start off, and then you can blow it and mess up and do all kinds of stuff and still be able to become president and get 34, 35 felony convictions and still be a candidate for president yet again. You're not going to get those chances. You're not going to get those shots. Right. You got one shot. You got to make it stick.
Yeah, I agree to that. I mean, that's what we're taught from growing up. I want to ask y'all both. Do we ever imagine a place, corporation, country, law, where power is not the because if it's power, somebody's always going to be fighting for it. Mm-hmm. Somebody's always going to try to keep it, and somebody's always going to try to prevent others from getting it, right? So talk to me, see, about that. How can DEI really play out in a space where if we know it's power, it's always going to be tainted one way or the other. Even if black people had power,
well,
it would still need to be DEI some kind of way.
So the one thing I disagree with on that is the assumption that all power structures will act the same. So that isn't bearing out. So you have this situation where there was a funding organization in Atlanta that was doing funding for the little guys, and the little guys being black women. They're like, let's say, entrepreneurs. They're trying to get their start or whatever. So you're funding for black women. There were no other folks that were doing that, right? And so she had this product. She had this wonderful thing. It was a couple of people. I think Keisha Knight Pulliam was in there. It was like a group of women that started it. Well, they were minding their own business, and it was one guy who had nothing to do with that, but was an anti-woke agenda guy that sued, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and it was upheld. And so this woman had money, she had power, and she was working to spread it, right? And that was the danger.
Spread it to who?
To black women. And so there is this situation. So there are other corporations that will have like STEM programs for disadvantaged youth in this one school, right? And they'll partner with this one black school, give away free iPads to, work off their white guilt and keep it going. That's A-okay. But when you're helping black women come up out of poverty and have the ability to be profitable, have the ability to, then that was seen as dangerous. But it wasn't other businesses, like, when people say free market this or free market, it wasn't other businesses that put her out of work. It was the Supreme Court. Yeah. And the majority of which was put in place by Donald Trump, right? And so it's kind of like, we don't even know what the free market would have done, because there are people that are coming, this Robbie guy, like coming after these initiatives before they even get a good start to see if they're really, making a difference or not. So this is all race-based.
Yeah, and I guess for me, because I play sport, right? And to me, sport is the one place where this doesn't carry, right? Nobody cares about your race. Nobody cares about your... To me, in sport.
In what sport?
In the team. When I had teammates and we were
Didn't
playing...
they not just tell the black players to shut up and play?
That's somebody outside. I'm talking about the sport itself, the team.
So not the owners, not the management, not the business part of it.
The sport or the
locker
players?
Room, the players.
So that's just the players themselves.
Correct. In the locker room, my observation...
We're struggling.
Well, let me help you.
We're struggling. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Because my observation has been in the teams that I have played for.
Okay.
We didn't care if you were black or white. We didn't care about any of that. The only thing we cared about was winning, because winning was the most important thing.
Okay.
Right? Now, do you have business in sport? Yes. Do you have other things that contribute to how things play out in sport? Yes. I'm raising this point because where is that in society that we can point to and say, it really doesn't matter what color you are, your orientation, all that. The focus is just on this, and this can be the model for what DEI looks like.
But I don't think that's the model, though.
No, it's not.
Because I don't think that's the reality of so. And I know you said just the athletes, right? But there was an article that basically said that one of the reasons why the Minnesota Vikings are doing so well right now is because one of the best, I think it's either offensive or defensive coordinators. He's one of the best in the entire thing, but he can't get a head coaching position.
He sued the NFL.
Right. Okay. So, but that's racism.
But that has nothing to do with the team.
It has everything to do
The
with the
players
team.
themselves. Y'all not understand what I'm saying?
No,
No, I don't.
you're but I don't see how you
In the locker room, they're not talking about the court case.
right, but you can't isolate the
don't think
players from the institution.
Yeah.
They're part of that institution. So I get what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. There are going to be it's like soldiers.
Correct.
You can have
military.
soldiers
Correct.
in the military who that particular company are tight because they got to fight the one enemy.
Correct.
They got to be united because they got to have each other's back and got to trust that you're going to make sure that I get out of this place alive. I get that, but the institution of the military is not
Racist.
like that. It's extremely racist.
Right, but y'all not hearing what I'm saying. I was raising the point of the locker room and the military to say, is there a place in society that mirrors that?
I don't know of any.
That's what I was saying.
I don't know of any.
And is that the goal of DEI? Because in the locker room, it really ain't about power. It's about winning. In the military, it's about the troops coming home.
Yeah, surviving.
Correct.
So what I would say is, yes, there are probably isolated scenarios or situations, but unfortunately, in those isolated scenarios, you still have the umbrella of the system that is set up to not feed that culture or enhance that culture, create that culture, or maintain that culture.
Correct.
And so, unfortunately, because they're going to be those silos, it's going to be silos. But banding together.
But I think that, so even if that was the purpose of DEI, right? Let's say that the goal of DEI was to get a place that is super diverse. Nobody is denigrated based off who they are. They're actually celebrated for who they are. And then we all work together to succeed, right? To thrive or survive, in the whatever. I think one of the problems with why DEI hasn't been more, transformational is because we are often inputting a DEI specialist into a racist company. So say for instance, if you have a Black woman that's hired to come in and do these DEI things, but the top of the company just did it to check a box and doesn't want them to actually do the work, or is not going to check the dude that's saying racist stuff in the boardroom, so you know what I'm saying? It has to be bought in. Where I'm not able to see that is the higher ups in the military and the higher ups in the sport have not bought in.
No, because the owners are normally white.
Right. And so what I am struggling to see is how that has been recreated in the world, because all I do see is how these groups of people, even if they themselves get along, if you go one or two levels up, is usually not like that. So I'm struggling to find an example.
So then what would you say is a win for DEI in normal everyday spaces?
So I think a win would be where you have applicants that are, like, let's say everybody has a 4.0, that you're looking at making sure that the hiring process takes into account that data shows more diverse workspaces in gender, age, race, ethnicity are more productive. Because if you're a business, you're trying to produce, that you have equal playing fields for the. So when we did away with legacy admissions, right? So a lot of folks are not fifth generation nothing, right? So when doing away with legacy, that makes sure it's more equal playing field, right?
So going by that, if everybody's got a 4.0, how do you choose?
But that's what I'm saying. Like you
choose?
You are making an intentional decision to make sure that the people you are choosing are diverse.
So then that means, in that example, if you got 5 people of all different ethnicities, right, and each of them have a 4.0, that's what I'm asking you. How do you choose which? And you can only choose 2 or 3.
So before DEI, it was submit your picture and they were choosing the white folks, right? So you do away with the submitting the picture or whatever. And some folks want to go to a race blind society. That is not what DEI is. No. It is not saying that you take away the name and you just point at people. That's not what it's saying. It is saying, I know that if I have a Black person, a Hispanic person, a white person, a non-binary person, and I have a very diverse workplace, that my productivity will be better, that it will help enhance the lives of a diverse community, and it's a win-win. And so it is an intentional decision to make your workplace more diverse.
Do you see that?
Do I see it happening?
Yeah.
I see it happening in isolated situations. And really, it depends on the one who has the power to make those decisions.
So let me ask you for your office then. Let's say you have an attorney's position, right? There are 3 candidates that are both equal, all of them from different ethnicities. How do you go about choosing, according to her, to make sure that your workplace, do you look at your current staff and say, well, I got enough Black people, I need to find somebody else?
No. So when you're dealing with something like law, I have rarely come across.
Hey, we're halfway through the show. Big shout out to everyone tuning in. Thank you all so much. If you're loving the content, consider supporting us by becoming a sponsor. Just contact us via email at thecrewradioshow757@gmail.com. Now stick around, we've got even more good stuff coming your way.
I have rarely come across a situation where both of the candidates are equally capable. One is going to always be better than the other, more experienced than the other, stronger in litigation than the other, has had the experience that you may desire over the other. And because of that, I'm always going to go with whoever's going to be the best fit for my office. And typically it's going to be that one that has the skill set that I need. So race is not going to come into a factor for my office. And then here's the thing. My office is already diverse.
So what if it wasn't? What if you had mostly Black people?
Not going to happen.
Would that change?
Well,
No, because of the culture that I have created, I made sure my office was going to be diverse. Hampton is 51% African American, about 48% Caucasian. So I made sure that I hired people that I knew was going to be open to a culture that they'll be able to fit into that culture. They'll be able to work well in that culture. So yes, I made sure that that culture was diverse, because I'm not going to have people serving the public and they don't represent or look like the public that they're serving. That doesn't make sense to me. So that could be a form of DEI, because I did do that. However, because it is diverse, what I am looking for more so now is, do you have the skill set that I need? Because I've already created that culture.
So I think one of the things, so we're definitely in process, because DEI is still relatively new. So we're not talking about like we have 10 years worth of data on some of this stuff, right? But we do know that certain things. So the data was showing that for those that have DEI initiatives, they have improved employee engagement, performance, and retention. So we know that that's better for communities as well, because when you have economic security, you can grow, you can feed your kids, you can have housing stability, better financial performance, stronger employer brands, improved customer loyalty, reduced recruitment bias, increased innovation and creativity, and improved collaboration. These are all things that, companies seem to want when you're looking in the capitalistic, like, make more money, right? So I think if we go to the education, I spoke with some folks at Christopher Newport University. So it's in Newport News. And so we know a lot of Newport News. We got a large Black population. But when you would go on the campus of CNU, it was a lot of richer white students from like Fredericksburg North in Virginia. And so, I was looking around, well, they have a DEI program. And this year, this current class that they have now is the most diverse that they've ever had. Guess what? They didn't have to go far. They went out and recruited from Newport News because we're here. But if you don't make that intentional effort to go into the community where you are even housed, the community that has welcomed you and you've been a part of its ecosystem, then you weren't going to have any changes. Or if you had we're going to give preference to the people who are third, fourth generation college students, that's not going to be a lot of us, right? And so if you have from the top down saying, I want you to go into the community, they're called community captains. And I know some of the students, they are absolutely thriving. Now, are there still issues on the campus? Absolutely, because this is in process, right? But when I was just at earlier this year, I was at the captain's vote day, right? And it was Republicans and Democrats. It was white folks, black folks, Hispanic folks. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It was the first time I ever felt like I could have seen myself on the campus. Well, that is an intentional decision. So if people were to say, you know what, we're going to boycott CNU because they're being more diverse, this is what's happening with some of those companies. Because they were saying we're going to be intentional about having more diverse workplaces, now we're boycotting Toyota or Ford because they were diversifying their workplace. Like, what other reason is there but racism to boycott someone simply for being intentional about hiring a more diverse workforce?
Yeah, I get that. So that's the D, right? And is DEI. So the E is equity.
Well, yeah, and equity would be also within the hiring practices,
but
right?
I think we need to distinguish, because equity and equality are not the same thing.
Right. Very much so.
I think people think equity is just everything's equal. It's not.
It's not.
Equity is you're putting resources in places where it's most needed to make the playing field more equal.
Yes.
And I think that's where people also get upset about this, because you're putting more money in places and spaces for those who object to DEI.
Right.
But you're putting money in places that have historically lacked the resources or lacked the funding.
But they don't look at it like that.
Well,
They look at it as you're not putting it in my space.
Okay, so let's look at neighborhoods. You can say that Shell Road in Hampton has not historically gotten the same funding as Fox Hill in Hampton. And so if you were to put more resources into Shell Road, like a Boys and Girls Club, which they did, and they said we're going to also put resources in there to help people to become job ready, or to combat congested poverty, or to address gun violence. What you're doing is you're trying to make one part of the city look like another part of the city when it comes to economic advancement, public safety, quality of life. And so it's hard. I mean, anybody can always object, but it's hard for Fox Hill to get mad at Shell Road for getting these services. When you look at Fox Hill and you look at Shell Road, you can see a distinct difference in the quality of life of the individuals that live there. Now, the one thing that I hear is, well, you have higher earners in this one area than you have in that area. And so, of course, it's going to be better over here, or it's going to be a better quality of life over here than it would be in Shell Road. However, there's no reason why you can't still address systemic issues that leads to criminality and poor quality of life while not neglecting over here as well. You can do both.
And the one thing that I need for people who are in the more well-off areas to understand, we can do prevention dollars in order to prevent crimes, or we can wait, go down the line, and it's going to be even more of your taxpayer dollars to address the issues. So taxpayer dollars are going to go into city services.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win when you're working on prevention. Not to mention, so we heard, well, why y'all spending all that money downtown in Newport News? But if you look And see, when you go to the central part of the city, like they have their utilities underground, they don't have a bunch of poles and everything. So obviously for this amount of time, there was a lot of money put into the central part of the city. It was the economic engine of the city. You were not investing equally in all three parts of the city. So now that downtown finally gets some money, which was a grant, by the way, from HUD, it wasn't even like, there are taxpayer dollars involved, but $30 million came from the feds for them to do the work that they've done on Jefferson Avenue in the Choice Neighborhood Project or whatever, Choice Neighborhood Initiative. Like, so you mad, but like you had City Center was being erected and all of these things. So it is very hard for municipal budgets. Like if it's going to take $30 million to do a project, it's hard for you to do three $30 million projects at the same time. So it's cyclical. But the cyclical was not happening equal in the downtown area and the far uptown area as it was in the central. So now that we're finally getting some investment, shout out to my dad for starting a lot of that when he was mayor. Like we're finally getting some redevelopment and all of that. So you mad, but it's like, but how? It's just like, Norfolk State, Virginia State were underfunded for years. Intentionally.
It's always been that way.
Right. So now you got some HU grads and I mean just all kinds of HBCU grads who are pulling the purse and said, well, guess what? We're not going to do no more. So
and they went back and did the research and found out
oh my God, so much more.
Yeah, that there was money that was purposely withheld. And so you have universities who were suing the state. I believe it was Memphis and Tennessee.
Yes.
That they were suing the state because they found out that hundreds of millions of dollars were owed and back endowments that they should have received back from like 1700s, 1800s or whatever. And now they got to pay it back. And so you're seeing all these new programmings, all of the new resources, all of these new buildings and so forth are coming up and erecting. You're like, how are they getting all this stuff? Well, the state is paying this money back now.
And the point with equality, I think that really does, that drives that home is that equality and equity feel oppressive to those who have been benefiting from the inequitable systems. Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh my God, why are you taking money from us? No, you have been hoarding resources away from others. So now we're going to stop the hoarding. That's not punishment. Like that's just making it more equitable. But it feels like an attack when you've been existing at the quote unquote top of the food chain for all these years.
Because you're messing with my status quo.
That's what it is. Exactly right.
Period.
I've been used to having this money.
Quo.
Period.
And I've been used to having this privilege.
Yes.
And now you're trying to take it away.
But
that's the perception.
But when your status and power was built off the backs of enslaved people and stealing from others and burning down their stuff, yeah, taking it back might seem like the legal and rightful thing to do because you got it by stealing.
But again,
that's not what they say.
That's fuel. That's fuel for you're taking away from my kids and my grandkids to come. And so
that's the fear.
I need to go back to the way it used to be.
Absolutely.
Correct.
So let's make America great again.
Right. And let's burn down Black Wall Street. Like you burn down the Black funding mechanisms and all of the things that it would take to help Black wealth. But the interesting part is white wealth pays for Black disparity. Mm-hmm. And so they're willing to hurt themselves in order to hurt us. And that's
the system.
Wild.
Well, hold
that
on,
is
hold
wild.
On. Well, we're saying this with the vote.
Yes.
So you got people willing to vote.
Yes.
That's hurting. That they're trying to hurt us,
right.
But they're hurting themselves in the end.
And we saw that, right?
We saw that, and we're going to see it again if it comes out the wrong way.
Well.
And so talk to us about, in your position as a legislator, how you see equity playing out in some of the challenges that maybe you face in getting other legislators to understand, hey, we need to put money here.
Yeah. So it's not the legislators that I have to work with to get them to understand, because when you show them the document of, name any of the PWI state-funded institutions in Virginia, and they're getting millions and millions and millions. And then you see this, just looking at the slide of the underfunding of Virginia State and Norfolk State, it's real hard to argue with that. But we are not even allowed to use the word equity in order to get the governor to sign the bills. Like if our bill has the word equity in it, it probably won't get signed, or he'll do a line amendment to turn it into opportunity, because equity, just like DEI has code words. So equity means Black people get stuff. DEI means Black people get stuff. And it's not handouts. We've made the case. It's not handouts. It's just taking down the unfair obstacles that were put in our place. That's all it's doing. It's not giving us anything. Be very clear. People within the DEI institutions are qualified. They're probably overqualified in getting these things. So when you have even a governor that will say, well, we don't do equity here, but then you have a school system where it's Black and disabled kids whose readiness for school is impacted, or whose literacy rates are down, or who need, because of how poverty and race are intersected, who need housing security, food security, and mental health supports in order to thrive. And then you say, well, no, we don't do equity. Okay, cool. Then give everybody food, give everybody mental health supports, and then that way a rising tide will float all boats. And then it's no to that too. Then just say you hate Black kids, because you can't say no to everything when we're trying to help all students. You can't say no to everything when we're trying to help Black and brown students and then expect better outcomes.
So then again, in a system that is racist and has always been geared toward the higher ups, what's realistic to expect from an equity perspective? I mean,
no, let me be very clear. It is realistic to expect that we could have equity within our schools.
What are some wins that you think are happening now or could happen that would demonstrate equity?
Okay, sorry. So I was gonna say, because if he had signed the bills, those would have been wins. But no, when you have people in positions of power that bring a different lived experience, that bring a different lens. Let's say, for instance, you're not a DEI hire, but the fact that you, a Black man born and raised by a single mom in Norfolk, are now in one of the most powerful positions that you can have in local government, right? Or constitutional government, right? You're in that. You bring your lived experience and all of that. We were just talking about some stuff today, right? That you bring that to that office. You bring that to your hiring practices. You know, what you're doing within your church, what I'm doing within my policy. The fact is that you can have the wins when you just simply remove the obstacles that were placed during the Jim Crow era after Reconstruction, because let's be real, when there were no obstacles during Reconstruction, Black people were thriving, as my brother has said. Mm-hmm. Black people thriving. Those obstacles got doubled down on and put back in, and that's where we are, why we are where we are now. So we're chipping away at those obstacles. When you had the war on drugs that was determined to lock up every single young Black man that they could, then you need to have voting rights restored and be able to hire on second chances. Like these are the things that are removing the obstacles. When you have small business programs and you know that a lot of younger Black people don't have the connections for your homie to give you a bank loan or whatever, then creating those systems, right? These were wins until people like this dude started taking it to this Supreme Court for them to be torn down. So even the wins that we've gotten since like 2010 are being put at risk because of this current Supreme Court. So we're in that next phase of backlash from having, risen up since 2010.
So going back to the HBCUs, I mean, what is a realistic outcome if you already know that more white schools are getting money, Black schools are not? I mean, what can even be? Oh,
we clarified that. The last two budgets that have come out of the House of Delegates that have had So right now, you have two HBCU graduates who are in charge of the Senate and House Appropriations Committee. They dug in their heels with the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus at their backs to say, we are not passing a budget that does not do right by HBCUs. And the budget got signed. So there are wins that are happening, but the fact that we had to fight our own governor in order to get it done. That's what I'm saying is the
But that
problem.
is a win for equity.
It is an absolute win for equity.
That's what you want.
And we're not at. We haven't gotten all the back pay yet, right?
Right.
I don't want to. But we have a historic amount that went to our HBCUs in the last couple of rounds.
Good. So now we're almost out of time. We got to get to the I, which is inclusion, right? How do you define inclusion? What does it look like for you?
So not just being tolerated in a space, but being welcomed and invited into a space. And so it's not just I'm a DEI hire and then I get put in the back cubicle and all of that. But if you're going to have, a celebration for this, then let's have a celebration for that. Like if you're going to have a celebration for what is maybe part of white American culture, then we're going to celebrate Juneteenth too, right? And in my own space, it's like if you're going to celebrate straight white folks for having a baby, then you're going to celebrate gay black folks when they got a baby too. It's making sure that everyone that is a part of your organization feels included and that they are an actual part and not just some check mark.
So the National Negro Anthem being sung just the regular national anthem.
Because how many of the players that are making this franchise some money are black?
African American. Yeah.
But if you're going to go, somebody could argue then, well, why not do the Hispanic national anthem?
Then let's do it too. As soon as
well, why do we even need national anthems before a sporting game anyway? Just go show up and play.
That's the point. If you're going to do one, do them all. If you're not going to do them all, don't do none. Nobody says that you have to have the national anthem before a football game, but when you only do the one, because there are a lot of people that are like, you know what? I don't want to have 12 different celebrations. Then don't have none. But when you have just one celebration and it is one celebration of white male heteronormativity and nobody else can be celebrated, that's not inclusive. And if you don't want to do the work that it takes to be inclusive, then don't just celebrate him.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge. The national anthem, man. I don't know why a sport has ever done that, but try to blend patriotism before you're gonna actually play a game. But
because football is like apple pie, and so we have in baseball. We have made that a national sport, and it is very American, or at least we have made it very American.
But going to work every day is American too, and nobody else does the national anthem before you start doing a court case.
No, they don't.
I mean,
if anything, they go play the death march at a time when I go to court. But I'm sorry, I said that. But
Grim Reaper coming up.
Grim Reaper coming up in there with a hook. I know, but nonetheless, no, they do not play it. No, they don't play it. But at these games, because we have made it American pastime or made it a American treasure, then yeah, we have those national anthems.
But it's just not possible. What I'm hearing you say, right? If it's all or nothing, you're gonna leave some people out.
You're gonna hang that up because
you are.
Well, then some people gonna be left out. Okay, I need
so
to.
then somebody's gonna be upset.
Somebody, you can't, as they say, you can't please everybody. Somebody's gonna be upset because it is not gonna happen where you're gonna eliminate the national anthem being played at sport games. That's just not happening. So, even if you think that's going to happen, that ain't happening.
Well, I support Lift Every Voice and Sing being sung at it because all of them black people on them fields and on the sidelines making them money, then yes, give us a nod to our existence in this country.
I'm just saying, if you're going to sing it, have a range.
That's what's most important.
That's what's most important.
Be
have
on
a range.
key.
Have a range.
Be on key.
Because that song go real low and that song go real high. So have a range. Just have a range. That's all I ask. I'm not asking much. Just have a range. Ain't that right, Jay? Have a range. That's all I'm saying.
He's a music talent. What do you say, sir?
Yes, have a range, but don't be petty. That's petty. Yes, please have a range. Don't do Carl Lewis when he came out there.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Why you go there?
Let's. Why can't we get a rendition, a soulful rendition, how Marvin Gaye did the national anthem?
Come on there.
And you lift every voice and sing the same way.
That
was a whole vibe.
He lit that up.
Y'all might hear this at the end of the show. This is how we take the show out.
Come on. Because he lit that up. Take us home. He lit that up.
He did.
He lit that up.
He did.
Yeah,
And some people was mad at that because he had changed it.
Because he did it the way he wanted it. They always say, when we do the national anthem, that we
extra.
We're going to put some extra in it.
We're gonna go to church with it.
You know we are.
We going to church with it, because
And
that's
why
all we
not?
know.
And
That's
why
what we
not?
know. We going to church with it.
Whitney's was good too.
Whitney was great.
And
Her
the
national
point of
anthem
that
was
would
really
be
great.
inclusivity would be, oh, that was a lovely rendition, and go on about your life instead of talking about how we messed it up because we put a little seasoning on it.
Come on. She lit that up.
But that's majority minority.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's the problem with DEI, because majority people don't understand the world of minority, right? Even in this community here, I can't tell you how many wonderful people I've talked to who've never been down to the Southeast community, who never have seen what it's like down here to even know or understand the history of redlining that your own
Right.
city did
Right.
to this community.
Right.
But you want to say it's about us not working and being lazy and all this kind of stuff, when really it was governmental resources that were neglected intentionally to keep a concentrated group of people in poverty.
Well, to be fair, it has a reputation as well. Like Shell Row, there's a purpose reputation to make things that are different fearful. So people don't like different. People don't like change, and people don't like the prospect of you replacing them or elevating above them.
But I don't think that white communities get the same rap. Like if there's a whole bunch of trespassing,
Trailer parks.
right?
Trailer parks.
Like all white people do not get painted as, whatever the crime is that happens within their area. But I get that all the time. Oh, you from bad news, whatever. It's like, oh, all y'all got is guns. Like, but you ain't never been down here to see all of these beautiful people
Yes.
who are working really hard to make
Very
a
hard.
difference, and who I'm fourth generation Newport News. Like, don't come at me like that. But then, after we talk, they have a better understanding.
As they should. And on that note, we got to run. Another good show today talking about DEI. I hope you enjoyed it. Drop a comment. Let us know what you thought about it on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe our YouTube channel as well. We got to run. Until next time, be blessed and be a blessing to someone else. Peace.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Crew Radio Show. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. We're always looking for great sponsors to support the show. If your company would like to reach our highly engaged audience, please drop us a line at thecrewradioshow757@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you for kicking it with the crew.